Good evening.
Recording in progress.
Good evening. I'd like to call the Oregon City Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee for February 22nd to order. Corey, you go through the roll just to see who's here. Can you do that? Is that?
I sure can.
Okay, let's do it. I don't know who's always online.
Oh, there's David. Okay. Joey Knopf.
Here.
Joyce Gifford.
Present.
Aaron McClellan.
Here.
Emily Lisborg.
Here.
Tim Wuest.
Here.
Steve Williams.
Here.
Tim Lanehart.
Present.
David Bone.
Here.
Excellent. Great to see you all.
Thank you. Welcome. Our first order of business this evening is an introduction. Kendall?
I'm pleased to introduce our new assistant city manager. She's been with us for about 2 weeks. She's got it all figured out. So she's here to introduce herself to all of you. Alex?
Yeah, just wanted to meet everybody and say that I'm really excited and happy to be here. One of the departments that the city manager has asked me to help oversee is the Parks Department. So I thought it was a good idea for me to come and meet you all. I'm from Oregon originally. I actually was the city manager in Scappoose up until I came here. So quite a big experience. And when I was there, I did work closely with Public Works, overseeing parks, wrote a lot of park grants, did a couple different parks master plans, things like that. So definitely familiar with the inner workings and just excited to be here.
Well, welcome. Look forward to working with you. Okay. First order of a little bit of action is to approval of our minutes. We have any adjustments to the minutes before we make a motion? Anyone? I have one that I wanted to be sure I got in just because it clarifies what my statement was during the members' report. Corey, I would switch the word season for migration. Because what I was trying to get across was that the reservoirs are drained to support salmon migration. And that way it makes a little more sense.
Excellent. Will do. Thank you.
Okay. Any other adjustments? Okay, do I have a motion?
Motion to approve minutes with proposed change.
I'll second.
We have a motion approved and seconded. Corey?
You got it. Joey Knopf.
Yes.
Joyce Gifford.
Yes.
Tim Wuest.
Yes.
Steve Williams.
Yes.
Tim Lanehart.
Yes.
David Bone.
Yes.
Aaron McClellan.
Yes.
And Emily Lisborg.
Yes.
Thank you all.
Okay. Well, we have a rare occurrence, at least while I've been here at the PRAC committee meetings. We have some public comment this evening that we haven't had before, or not in a while anyway. And the first person that asked to comment this evening was Brian Shaw.
Thank you, Chair Williams, but I think I'm going to be speaking on the Clackamas Park issue. So if I know how this is done, we speak at that time, public comment per item on the agenda.
Actually, Brian, it's a little bit different than that. I believe we always have our public comment up front. Now, I would prefer to do it the other way. Can we do it that way? All right.
Yeah,
Brian,
that'd be great.
Let's make an adjustment to what we normally do, and we'll have you speak what I do after we have the presentation. There we go.
Chaos.
Okay. We have one other item. We have a letter, which I believe every member has in front of them. I don't know if everyone has had. It's from the Hillendale Pickleball group. I don't know. This is also something that will come up during our next discussion. But I think given what we just did and changed that order, I think I'll reference this after we have our presentation. And that way then it all kind of ties together a bit cleaner.
Sure.
How about that? Okay. So With that, we have two action items this evening. The first one that we're going to take on is the permanent pickleball nets at Hillendale Park. Mr. Wuest.
Why, thank you. We have a PowerPoint that I made a couple of weeks ago, and I made some changes, but you guys don't have these changes, so we're going to go ahead and work with what we have. All right, so this is all about Hillendale pickleball courts, and could I have a show of hands to see how many people have played pickleball around here? You've played?
Well, around here is.
No, you played here in Oregon City.
In
played
Hillendale.
in Hillendale. Awesome.
Oregon City.
All right, very good. So everybody's familiar with the sport then. Okay, so we're going to talk about permanent nets up there because right now we have no permanent nets. This is what the Hillendale pickleball courts look like. We have more pickleball courts in our little town than any other place in Portland right now. All right. It's a great location. It's something that's not going to bother any neighbors. The closest people that are to the courts are guys sitting behind jail. So they haven't complained yet. And it's a very popular place right here. So the issue being is that why permanent nets? Kendall has received a whole bunch of input from the general public saying we need more pickleball. The Hillendale Pickleball Club was very popular at one time. There was over 380 members at one time. That was about 3 years ago. And due to some issues of higher skill levels playing with lower skill levels, the higher skill level people were told to go play somewhere else. And as a result, everybody left, and the level of competition has gone down, as well as the number of members of the Hillendale Pickleball Club. I think they're down below 100 members. But they only play in the morning from 8 till noon with temporary nets. They set up the nets on there, and then when the club leaves, there are no nets. And I bet you nobody here who's played pickleball has a net, okay? So it's something that it only costs about $250 for a net, but it's a hassle to go ahead and bring it, and it's something that you'd rather show up and play, all right? So no pickleball for the general public when the club is not there. And that is most of the time, all right? Anytime in the afternoons that people who aren't as fortunate to be retired, okay, will have to not play or bring their own nets, all right? Let's see. Pickleball is an individual sport. This is not a team sport. It's something that 95% of the people that show up to go ahead and play drive up in their own cars alone, okay, and just show up and put their paddle in the queue and you're playing. This is a very social sport. It's a lot of fun to go ahead and do that. It's something that clubs exist to go ahead and train people to go ahead and play and provide a welcome environment to go ahead and learn the sport. They also tell the general public when they're going to go ahead and play. So, and there are some websites that are available that are used for Hillendale that there's like Playtime Schedule or Team Reach. Playtime Scheduler is something, I'll show you what it looks like, but it is something that by going to the general public going to this, they could see who's going to play, where the groups are playing, when they're going to go ahead and play, and what skill level is going to be there when they arrive. So it is a wonderful website that will allow anybody from any skill level to go ahead and see what's going on. So this is what Playtime Scheduler looks like. All these bubbles are different courts throughout the Portland area. Right here. And you can see that 2-0 to 5-0, which means 2-0 is a beginner, 5-0 is almost a pro player, and they'll go ahead and post via which park you're going to go ahead and play at. And you can see that there's 14, 13, 10 people showing up to go ahead and play. You can, whatever skill you are, you can go ahead and hunt down throughout the entire city to see, all right, I'm going to play the 3-5 to 4-2-5, and there's 4 people playing there. So there's enough for a game because you need 4 people to play. And then it's great. So, but Hillendale, Oregon City is that big zero right there where you see so many other people with showing up at different parks to go ahead and play. This was just Saturday, January 6th. No people had signed up to play that day. But here, this is on the right-hand side is what Hammerley Park did. So if you hit one of these bubbles, it will tell you what park it's at, where the park is, directions to the park and all that kind of stuff. But it also will tell you who signed up and what level of play is there. So it's a really great thing. And this is without a club that will go ahead and do that. A club will post the zero or the idea, but this is something that will attract the kind of players that you want to go ahead and play with. All right?
Sorry to interrupt, Tim. I'm going to play with a couple things for a sec. Erin let us know that she can't see the presentation.
All right.
Erin, will you speak up if you happen to see something? I'm just going to basically hit a bunch of buttons and hope for the best. I'm like, oh,
Just your files. And I see that the presentation is in a file bucket. But I can't see the presentation.
sorry, I'm going to get out of this real quick.
Would I help with your chapstick? Thank you.
Well, I start to see something.
Leave this one. What were you seeing when I did that?
I do see it now. I see the green, the PowerPoint presentation. It's
Interesting.
in regular PowerPoint mode, but I can see it.
Okay, can you see it if I move it to present like this?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes, I can.
excellent.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
Very good. Thanks.
Sorry about that.
So I made this presentation up thinking that the club would be interested in supporting the 4 permanent nets. But with this letter that was just sent, it sounds like they're thinking that they're going to lose control over. We have technical difficulties. Hello? Yes. Oh, geez. Restart.
Take just a minute to use the technology here. If this was Halloween, we'd be in great shape right there.
You're doing great, Tim. I'll read the letter while we have the moment. I didn't get to read this earlier.
Yeah, please, everybody take a minute to peruse that letter.
Okay, so
We'll talk about it a little
talking
bit
just
later.
4 nets.
4.
And there's how many courts?
8.
Got it.
Okay, and I'll show you.
You want to wait until we're on?
Yeah.
Are we on?
Yeah, I think we're
Okay.
good.
Let's go ahead and
Except
get,
for we can't ever see anything on our,
Yeah, he's restarting the screen.
we have no signal.
We're moving pretty quick though, so we need to slow it down anyways. This is fine. We're going way too fast.
Yeah,
Way too
we
fast.
can turn around. Okay.
We're being too efficient.
So I'm making this presentation on behalf of the general public, not the club, because there's a huge demand to go ahead and play. And when the club's not there or they're not showing up because of the playtime scheduler, this is something that anybody could go ahead and just show up and play. Bringing your own balls to play pickleball happens all the time, all right? So the ask is to allow us to go ahead and put in 4 permanent pickleball nets. Paying for it is something that I could find people to go ahead and pay the $8,000 to go ahead and buy the nets and buy and have the courts installed. So that's not a problem. But Steve and I went and toured the courts the other day, and we were thinking about putting the pickleball courts over in the tennis area initially, but we could avoid the conflict of tennis by putting it onto the other side of the court and have the basketball back hoops change from one side of the court to the other. So it will still allow tennis when and if they do show up. Tennis is not a sport that's played a lot in Hillendale. In the 8 years that I played up there, I've seen like 2 people play tennis. So it is not a popular thing to do, and at that spot right there. Okay, so we'll move. Okay, without the clubs, okay, here's, we're missing a big picture here. So I'd like, yeah.
The pictures.
The picture, I have a big picture right underneath that.
Oh.
Okay, yeah. So what it shows is the big, huge empty court. And it is, I showed up one afternoon and took some pictures. Okay, and here we'll go to the next slide. So we're missing a big picture right there. All right, in fact, let's see. All right. All right, this is, I'm gonna go back to, whoops.
You can get a sense of it from those.
So here, without the club there, this is empty, and it's empty a lot, all right? So the basketball hoops are over on this side, and if we move those to over here, we wouldn't, this is a tennis net right there. We could allow the occasional tennis player to still play there. So the only thing that we'd have the city do is change those basketball hoops from there to here. So there we go. All right, so it's still not there anyway. Okay, so tennis nets are commonly used as backstops for pickleball courts, but if that wouldn't matter if we're gonna put the pickleball on the other side. So this is the Lake Oswego, former Lake Oswego pickleball courts. They had some issues with the neighbors. The neighbors kicked them off of there, but this was a very popular club, and they used the tennis court nets as backstops. This is Hammerley Park, just right across the river. That was a very derelict tennis court. They put in 4 permanent nets there, and it's the most popular court in this area of town right now. And this is something that is up. People go ahead and play there without a club, and it's very well maintained. The thing about a club is that they want to go ahead and play, so they keep the courts that they play at neat and clean, and they blow the courts off. So it's something that could be done with or without a club. Okay, this is Canby. Canby does not have a pickleball club, and their tennis courts are not vandalized. They are very well kept, and it's something that with 4 courts there, it's very popular. So, and then Woodburn just went ahead and installed their pickleball courts, and they have 4 wonderful permanent nets right up there. Oregon City could do this and make this a very attractive place to go ahead and play. So we want 4 of these permanent nets. This is what it looks like. It's something that the club could either organize to play there, or I'll show you what other places have done. And with 8 courts, there's enough room for both competitive and recreational people to play at the same time. So that is not a conflict. All right, so we could accommodate the basketball players and the tennis players with these 4 permanent nets right here. So this is what a paddle queue looks like. So when a person just shows up, you put your paddle in there, and you're next group playing. And when a whole bunch of people are there, you see a big, huge line of paddles, and everybody takes turns. No matter where you go in the United States, this paddleball queue is something that works without an external group to go ahead and supervise it. You just show up and put your paddle in there, and typically you play 2 games games and then you're out and then somebody rotates in. So it is a very efficient system that works everywhere without a club. So after club hours, it's typical for places to have their own rules. Oregon City can come up with their own rules and say you mix it, you play your one game, you rotate out and so on. But this is what happened down in Palm Springs. This is something that happens over at Summer Lake and over in Tigard. Tigard has two big courts. There's one over in Summer Lake and there's another one over by the Cabela's. And they both have this system right here where there's beginner play and there's advanced play and there's open play. And they're posted like this so somebody can go ahead and see where they're going to go ahead and play, when they want to go ahead and play, and just show up, and they're playing with their own skill levels right there. Yeah, it's important because you don't want your to have a very lopsided game. So it's this kind of thing is something that we could do here in Oregon City without a club. All right. What I'm asking today is to have this group right here, the Park and Recs Advisory Committee, approve putting in 4 permanent nets into the Hillendale Pickleball Club. And I hope I can get all of your votes for that.
Thanks, Tim. So I'll recharacterize maybe our action here today. You're requesting we approve a recommendation to allow for permanent pickleball.
4 permanent.
Four. So it's a recommendation that we'd be making to do that.
Yes.
Okay. So, questions of Tim?
I guess my first question my first question is actually kind of more of Kendall than it is of Tim, just to reference. How many tennis ball courts and how many basketball courts do we have in Oregon City? I mean, if I'm misunderstanding, I believe this is the only place that we have a pickleball court at, correct?
Yes, it is. Rivercrest, I know we have tennis courts there. Hillendale, am I missing? Those are the two.
Sorry, I didn't mean to put you in.
Yeah, the only other place is high school.
The high school, but
Well,
that's
the
not
high
managed
school,
by the
yeah.
parks yet?
Yeah.
So we do have other parks that do have basketball and tennis courts then, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Tim, just a quick question.
It's your mic, Steve. He couldn't hear you.
Okay. Just a question. You had a reference to the cost to put. How did you arrive at that cost? Was that something you had somebody give you an estimate on, or how'd you arrive at that cost for putting in permanent nets?
Okay, I got written bids from 2 different companies. One was $20,000 to go ahead and put 4 nets in. And the other one was just under $8,000. And I figured, those guys we want. They are the guys that installed the courts in Molalla. So they have an example in a public park, how that works. And it's just like the picture that I showed right there.
I have a question. It's because I'm relatively new, is that I see in the letter that was provided that the club decided one of the reasons they didn't want to be responsible for that was because of vandalism and potential replacement costs. Does the city carry insurance on things like that, or does that get paid just directly back? Like if a net is destroyed, does the city just have to buy a new one?
Because of the cost, we just have to buy a new one.
Is that it? Okay.
The deductible would be really bad.
Go ahead, Aaron. You're all good.
That was more or less my question, yeah.
Oh, okay, great.
Well, Tim, I'll follow up with one more. So from what you're describing in the picture we have here, we would still have, if under your proposal, there would still be potentially two basketball courts, 1 tennis court, depending upon how who was there and when they played. And then in this particular picture, I believe they would be on the left-hand side, 4 permanent courts with permanent nets in between the fenced area that we see there.
Correct.
So
if you look carefully at this picture, on the left-hand side of the courts, there is a fence that runs in between the west courts and the east courts. And that is a chain link fence that was put in when the club built the pickleball courts right there. So, and just by moving the basketball from the left-hand side to the right-hand side, it keeps everything the way that we have it a multi-sport court, so nothing changes with that.
So Tim, is there, what is the cost of moving those basketball?
It is something that probably would be better asked of a park maintenance guy over here. And I know there's a big, huge cement block that holds that in, and whether you can dig that out and just move that over to the other side, that's beyond my pay grade there.
Yeah, we could get a quote for it and get you an answer on how much it costs. It would be, at a rough estimate, it'd be tens of thousands.
Tens of thousands?
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe that's something that if we
We'd have to
decide to move
excavate.
forward, that's obviously would have to be looked into.
Yep.
Okay.
Or we could just get rid of tennis and put it onto the other side. And
Well, that's, any other questions of Tim at this point? Okay. Well,
thank you.
before I entertain a motion of some kind, I wanted to ask Kendall, if from a staff perspective, they had any thoughts or recommendations regarding this proposal as well. So before we move forward with any kind of motion, why I'd like to hear from you guys if you've got anything.
So first I'd like to say we definitely support pickleball. Tim and I have had numerous conversations about how we can support pickleball. We've worked with the Hillendale Pickleball Club. We look forward to continuing to work with the Hillendale Pickleball Club. One of the things in regards to changing amenities to a park is, and especially if it's there's no master planning process in regards to kind of dictating what the amenities, because with the master planning process, there's public engagement to find out what the community actually wants at the park. So in a situation like this, if we were to go in and based on this recommendation and remove your basketball courts and your tennis courts, you could see that we could have some people within the community who play basketball, who play tennis, who would feel alienated. So for us to kind of move forward with something like this, there definitely would need to be some form of public engagement with the community to find out if they're on board with this change, because it would be a pretty big change for this particular park. The other thing that I wanted to bring up, and this is based on some of our conversations Tim and I have had in regards to how we can be more supportive of pickleball. One of the things that we did just last year is we went out and bought equipment, pickleball nets and paddles and balls. And Melissa Sebastian, our aquatics and recreation manager, worked with our recreation coordinator to actually launch a program this past summer to offer pickleball programming, whether it be camps or specific times available where we have staff available to put out the nets and man the courts to make pickleball more accessible. Because the conversations we've had with the pickleball club is one of the things that we were trying to get across with the club is we want everyone to be able to participate in pickleball. So we want to do what we can to reduce those barriers. And we felt like since it was important for us to continue to maintain this court as multi-use to serve the entire community, this was a way where we could still fulfill that need, still advance pickleball and meet the need of the community when it comes to pickleball. We do have plans moving forward into this summer to expand on that programming so we can offer more pickleball programming. But those are just some of the concerns that I have. And it's interesting we're having this conversation right now because the National Parks and Recreation Association just released an article about the do's and don'ts of pickleball. And one of the don'ts is eliminating like tennis courts and converting them to pickleball courts because you end up alienating other people in the community. So we definitely want to do this right. We definitely want to be supportive. But I think there needs to be some additional public engagement. There needs to be some conversation with city leadership, also city commission, because it's a hefty price as well, to make sure they're on board with us moving something like this forward as well. So,
Okay. Any questions of Kendall?
Yes, I have a question. I appreciate your outreach with JR to go ahead and go to RJ to go to the park and Hillendale and advertise on Facebook, neighborhood groups, do the Facebook kind of things. He was there for a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks, and had 2 people, if that, show up. And those guys ended up playing with the club. So the fact that the club is there playing doesn't need any more additional programming from that. This is, pickleball is something that could go ahead and stand on its own. Youth groups, yeah, that'd be great. The club would go ahead and volunteer to even train kids, but it's something that you are wasting resources with JR spending time sitting on a bench watching his 1 or 2 people play there.
And you make a good point. What we've been trying to do is actually collaborate with the pickleball club to absorb some of the expenses that are associated with the club so they don't feel like they have to charge people to participate in pickleball. So we're open to working with the pickleball club and expanding access to pickleball with them coming alongside us. And one of the conversations we had with the club was specifically what you discussed, coming alongside, exposing people to pickleball, working on camps together. We're definitely open to those conversations, but as you know, there's been a lot of leadership changes, so we're open to continuing those conversations, to continue to kind of expand pickleball and continue to work with you to figure out how we can be better and what we can do right now. But we're definitely open to that and look forward to continuing to work with that group as well.
A follow-up. Is there like and I'm sure this has to do with our planning and 10-year plan, but is there a specific reason we do not have just full-time pickleball courts already when the surrounding cities all seem to have those courts, or has there been dilemmas that have kind of caused that?
Dilemmas, I think at the time we had the Hillendale Pickleball Club that were the primary users of that court, and we had portable pickleball nets, they had equipment, they had storage, they were able to come and go. What I will say is we went through the park's master plan process. So we have information that speaks to what are the priorities of the community right now. So if you look at what the priorities are, if you look at our big moves, I think what we have to do is really look at what is the community telling us right now is a priority for them. So in regards to pickleball, we're definitely going to continue to be supportive, but what is it that they want and what's most important to them moving forward? It's going to be really key and critical for us moving forward because we want to provide everything to everybody, but we have limited resources. So how do we figure out how to go about meeting that need? And so that's why we felt like the route that we're taking currently right now with the investment in equipment, the initiation of programming, that this would be a good starting point for us. It doesn't mean it has to end here, but we can continue to kind of expand and engage with the community to see what the community wants and possibly expand and have more pickleball courts dedicated.
Thank you.
This would be a much less expensive option to go ahead and put in 4 pickleball court, permanent nets, than to go ahead and find a new area to build a whole entire pickleball center. And locations are so important with pickleball. You want to be as far away from residential areas as possible. You can't hear the ball bounce, beyond the 50-foot area in this location. So unlike any other place. So.
Any other questions of staff or?
I just have a follow-up.
I have a quick follow-up for Kendall. I know the Parks Master Plan was presented, and can you just refresh our memories as to what was said about pickleball in particular in that survey, what the results were?
Specifically with pickleball, it was rated in the lower category in regards to priorities. I don't have the chart in front of me, but it didn't rate extremely high in regards of priorities for the community based on the people that we surveyed.
Okay, and then I guess the other one was, it seems like the removal of the basketball nets are potentially, like that's the most cost prohibitive aspect of this project, is that correct?
Well, I think also there was cost associated with the conversion that would, I think you said, what, $8,000 to $20,000?
My proposal says I will raise that money by myself to go ahead and get that done. I have friends and people that will do that. So it will be in between $8,000 and $20,000. And I could do that without the city. So it's a free upgrade to the city. And it's something that you don't have to dip into your overextended budget right now.
Well, I think we would need to go through a process of costing out the actual project to figure out what it would actually cost us. And obviously, we can do that and come back with some accurate figures of what it would cost to actually do a conversion.
Okay.
Just Corey, quick question. Do the, Emily and Aaron didn't get this letter then, did they?
No, we just
Okay.
got that today.
So Emily and Aaron, we were also given a letter from, it says Hillendale Pickleball, parentheses, the largest user groups at Hillendale, regarding this proposal for the permanent nets. And I think that, we need to consider this opinion too. And basically, Emily and Aaron, it's saying that they are opposed to it, mostly because of the cost of the maintenance, and that as pickleball is a group sport, or a social sport, rather, that really that needs to have people who understand pickleball to be there and not just put up permanent nets for anybody to try to use. Is that?
Well, you also have to read the last sentence in this the thing.
We wish to
Okay.
thank everyone.
No, on the front of
which
the
one?
page. Nor are we opposed to permanent nets with guarantees for maintenance once the city and club has resolved outstanding agreements. That's a no-brainer right there. That could be done. So this would only enhance club play and recreational play when the club's not playing.
Okay. So thank you for characterizing the letter
Yeah.
that we have. So
I think-
Emily, did you have more?
And you'll be able to send this letter to.
Yes, I'm working on it right now.
Okay.
I know
Yeah.
Joey was ready to ask a question as well.
I couldn't see you down there, sorry.
No worries. Yeah.
I do have a question sorry, go ahead.
Hang on a second.
Just a quick question to Tim. In your experience from the surrounding communities that have permanent nets, are they on dedicated pickleball courts or are they on multi-use like what Hillendale is?
The ones that I showed you over here, all of them are on dedicated areas, okay? So nobody plays basketball on the pickleball courts, okay? Here in Canby, nope, this is a dedicated pickleball. And as far as I know, I have not seen any vandalism on any of these courts that I've seen that are dedicated pickleball. So I think that's blown out of proportion. And what would happen is that I know that the club is worried that they're going to lose control over pickleball. And the thing about the sport is that this is a cooperative thing. People show up and they want to play with different people. So this isn't something that's either or. It is something that just enhances the offering.
And club members can store their paddles and all that stuff there.
Yeah, but there's two lockers right there and they contain pickleball nets and balls and stuff to clean the courts with. So the club has really done a lot to make this what it is. They've invested a lot of money into it. They've got grants to go ahead and pave it and paint it and put the bleachers in and fence it and put windscreens all the way around it, none of which was paid by the city.
So Aaron, you had a question?
I do. Concerning if we were to do a vote today, would we be voting a vote of confidence for this type of thing? Or are we able to put in, I guess what I'm getting at is I want to make sure there is that public process, that opportunity for public engagement if we're going to change amenities at a park, what Kendall talked about. And so if we vote today, would it be with the caveat that that happens? Or what does a vote today signify?
And I asked that question of Kendall sometime back, and it's basically a mandatory that we have some kind of a public process. Our recommendation today would be just that, a recommendation, and then this Parks and Recreation group would have to take that and start to move it forward through the process. But it would include, as I understand it, would be required to include a public process, both driven by the Parks and Recreation Department and through the City Council as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be both. So I think that's a mandatory. Our recommendation just kind of, if we wanted to do it, kicks off the process. I don't think it by no means leaves anybody out in terms of what comes after that.
So we recommend to start the dialogue.
So what?
To start the dialogue, the conversations that need to happen.
Start the public process.
Yes, to start the public process.
Given we've reviewed our public comment letter that we have and have had conversations, I would at this point entertain a motion of how we would like to move forward if anyone has one.
I'll move that I'll make a motion that we recommend to the Parks Department and the city the beginning of the process for permanent nets.
Okay. We have a second?
I second it.
Okay. We have a motion with a second. Before I go to a vote, is there any discussion on the motion?
Aaron has a question, it looks like.
Oh, sorry.
Oh.
Aaron, I keep...
No, I don't.
You don't? Okay. Thank you. Is there any discussion on the motion? Okay. I'd like to say just one thing. Having gone out there and actually looked at the facility that we're talking about here, the proposal that was outlined here this evening still leaves it in a multi-purpose fashion. It was somebody, and however the permanent fence got put on that one side of the court, obviously was kind of trying to wall off those courts, not entirely, but specifically to try and utilize them, I think, for pickleball. My concern that I voiced was we've had a lot of discussion here this evening about the club's involvement. If I'm to support this motion, it's important to me that everybody be able to use the facility when it does get the nets put in there. It can't be something that is occasionally, you can get there and if I show up at 2 o'clock, that's fine. But if I show up at 9 o'clock, I can't use it because somebody's, it's got to be open to the public, in my opinion. And that's real important. And this would be set up, could be easily set up that way. The location, I heard a lot from other people. I talked to several other groups in other cities. The big thing they ran into was some of the conflict between the multi-users, but also the noise. This is far enough away. I'm a really loud guy and they couldn't hear me anywhere around the park either. So it's a good location from a sound standpoint, I think. So I intend to support the motion to move forward. I think that we've gotten to a place where I live across from a basketball court, a couple tennis courts. I have the opportunity to view how much activity there is over there. I don't think this change would dramatically impact the ability of people in the city of Oregon City to be able to participate in any kind of any kind of multi-sport activity they want to. But we've got some work to do, some cost estimates I think need to be made, some other things, but I intend to support the motion and move forward with it.
Thank you very much. I think that just because there's 4 permanent nets there, there's more people that show up. They could always set up the temporary nets that the club has access to. So it's something that it expands based upon how many people show up. So it's a pretty flexible arrangement.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay. Corey, I think we're ready to, we have a motion
I'll take a roll call.
to move forward.
Okay.
Could you please repeat the motion as it's worded, because I didn't hear everything that David was saying.
Got David tripped over his tongue trying to make that motion.
Now you have to repeat it.
So I think what I'm trying to say is that I make a motion that we support the prospect of putting permanent nets and begin the process of discovering whether or not this is feasible. Does that sound about right?
That we would move along the public engagement process and involve
absolutely.
City Commission.
Yeah.
Joey Knopf,
Yes.
Joyce Gifford,
Yes.
Tim Wuest,
Yes.
Steve Williams,
Yes.
Tim Lanehart,
Yes.
David Bone,
Yes.
Emily Lesborg,
Yes.
and Aaron McClellan.
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, next on our agenda, we have the Clackamas Park Master Plan review. Kendall?
Yes, it's my pleasure to introduce Lango Hansen. We've been working with Lango Hansen for almost 2 years now on this Clackamas Park Master Plan. And so we were directed by the City Commission at the December 12th meeting to explore a alternative location for the RV park at Clackamas Cove. And tonight, Brian is going to present that information about that location and speak to you specifically about the pros and cons of this location versus the location that was proposed at Clackamas Park.
Real quick, Aaron and Emily, can you confirm that you can see my screen?
I can.
Excellent.
Yes.
Thank you.
Before I get started, could I get the clicker?
The button.
Oh, here you go. Here you go. Mhm.
Yeah, Kendall, I think it's been actually a little over 2 years, late 2021 that we started, maybe me, that we started the master plan, worked with this group, presented to a number of familiar faces, a number of new faces here. I was thinking back, that was all, I think, Zoom based. So good to see you in person, most of us here. So we worked through a rigorous public engagement process, meeting with this board, meeting with City Council. Ultimately, the final master plan was approved, I think it was in August of 2022. And yeah, there were just a few details that the council wanted to touch base on. So we were meeting back, as Kendall mentioned, this last December. And out of that came this desire for a specific study for an alternate location for the RV park. And
There you go.
So to set the stage, I'll take a step back and talk about the existing conditions very briefly, the proposed or the approved master plan location for the RV park, and then shift to the alternate location that we studied as a part of this little study. So the existing RV park right now is right in the middle of Clackamas Park. I think, there we go. So it's located right next to the river in the floodplain. I don't know if there is such a thing as a 6-month floodplain, but it seems like it floods twice a year, and once or twice a year that they have to close at least part of the RV park, most recently back in January, I believe. Obviously, there's a lot of expense associated with that. I won't go into too many details, but through all the planning, the idea was, among other things, to move it to higher ground. There are electrical connections right now. I almost said they're not permanent because they're replaced so often that they don't feel permanent. There's no permanent sewage connections in the existing location. There's the sewage dumps hookup in the park. So by moving it up out of the floodplain in across the street, it's still basically within the bounds of the park. It is up out of the floodplain, providing permanent electrical hookups, permanent sanitary hookups, not requiring the dump station to be within the park any longer. I guess I go to this plan to speak more specifically. It is, so just to confuse you a little bit, we've changed orientations. Now north is to the left in this plan. So the proposal for the RV park is just across Clackamat Drive and Main Street there. The existing RV park is in this, what is proposed now is a large open lawn space. So currently there are 36 RV spaces as it stands today. In the approved master plan, we have 18 spaces across the street, and then also buffered from the highway by the boat parking and some vegetation. So in part, the number is reduced from that 36 down to 18, just providing the buffer from the highway itself. This is just zooming in on the layout. There's the 18 spaces, the boat trailer parking and auto overflow parking as well. Moving across the street to the east side of McLaughlin, this is the property east of the highway. A couple of photos from back in January. Looking onto that property itself, the upper left shows that maintenance road. The highway, for orientation, the highway is just to the left there, and the main site of study is to the right of that image. A number of these images just looking into the center of the site, and the bottom right shows at the edge of that property that view across the cove. So wanting to compare apples to apples in the study, taking the same size of RV space layout and similar orientation and drive-through circulation patterns, this site is about twice as large as the parcel that was included in the master plan study. That was a 2-acre parcel, whereas this is just over 4 acres for context. And given that increase in size, we're able to fit just almost twice as many spaces in. So we have 33 RV spaces that we can comfortably fit into this location. The site is fairly flat at this point. To the level of detail in this study, we didn't get into any geotechnical reports or what that soil is consisting of out there, but just looking at it from a grading standpoint, of site access and site utilities provided on Main Street, trying to keep it a fair comparison between the two. So again, this is a larger site, which affords more spaces. It is a little bit farther away from the highway, but standing out on site, the highway is still close. You know the McLaughlin is right there. Similar amenities in terms of open space, grass, landscaping for each of these spaces. I will say that also that this is literally not in the park right now, but it physically is very separated. Walking from this site back to Clackamat Park, going under the highway, it's not the most pleasant experience. From looking at a plan view, it feels very connected, but to get from one to the other, there is a certain separation. Whereas with the location in the approved master plan, we call for a redirecting of traffic. So traffic stops, through-bay stop, there's crosswalks, there's a safe connection between the proposed master plan location for the RV state park and Clackamat Park itself. And it's also worth noting this site doesn't have, given the slopes of the banks surrounding this peninsula here, there's no direct access to the water. There's great visual access, there just is not the ability to get down to the water, sort of sliding down the hill. And I do apologize in advance for very small text. We wanted to provide a thorough comparison between the master plan location and this alternate RV park study location. I can walk through some of the highlights here just to help communicate to this group some of our findings. Basically, we thought it would be beneficial to think of it in terms of pros and cons of developing each location. So I'll just go through really quickly. As I mentioned before, starting with the pros of the master plan location, it does have that direct access to the master plan amenities within Clackamas Park itself, just a simple crosswalk away. Another really important point to make is that this is property that's owned by the city right now. So it's part of the master plan. The developability is much more streamlined as a part of that. Both sites share the benefit of getting the RV park much more out of the floodplain than it currently is today, which is, I think, a foundational goal to relocating the RV park. And they both also allow for the full hookups of sewer and electrical. Both sites would require rezoning, so that'd be a similar process. I think one thing that's beneficial about the master plan site is that it's entirely out of the NROD zone. So that's the Natural Resource Overlay District. And any development, it would be an exception to develop the RV park inside that zone anyways. And if it were allowed, any of that development would require a very rigorous amount of mitigation of native plantings. So that's definitely worth understanding. And I think lastly, the master plan location, as I mentioned, we had a number of 3 public surveys, 3 open houses. We got really strong feedback and it really demonstrated a lot of public support for what we ended up in the end. Is really community-driven outcome there. I think some of the cons to speak to that are McDonald's right next door and just the limited number of RV spaces that we can provide on that lot itself. Jumping over to the pros and cons for the alternate, I've touched on some of the pros already. It does allow for more RV spaces, more matching what we have currently in Clackamas Park today, close to that number. And again, it allows for the full hookups and it's a little bit more buffered from the highway as well. It's set back that much farther from 99. Kendall, if you want to speak to this in more detail, it's a little bit difficult because this property is not directly city owned. It's the urban renewal that owns it.
Yeah, and so urban renewal is considered like a separate entity. So one of the things that needs to be mentioned, this alternative wasn't mentioned in the process because it's not a part of Clackamas Park. So since it's part of urban renewal, there would need to be some type of a appraisal done to the property in order for us to purchase the property from urban renewal, which would also add to the development cost, which is something we're going to talk about in regards to the difference between the 2 sites. So it's just another aspect of development that would have to be addressed. Right now, he had mentioned geotech assessments. They just approved a contract for that to happen. There needs to be some environmental assessment. You know, they've been dealing with the algae problem there. So those are other things that come with that property that would also need to be mitigated. So,
and to tag on to that, the parcel was included in the Cove master plan, and an RV park usage wasn't any of the identified uses for this parcel that we're discussing as an alternate location. To jump into the costs of developing it as a part of our master plan process, we put some numbers to what it would cost to develop the RV park itself, where it's shown in the master plan. Very rough numbers. It's about $1.5 million to do all the paving and the utilities there, the site development, that's the trees and shrubs and ground cover for that roughly 2-acre parcel. Part of which is overflow parking as well. So by approximation, this site is, the alternate site is about twice as large. So, and it's also more sensitive. There'd be more of that mitigation work that's associated with it, raising the price. There's the unknown of what's going to come out of the geotechnical report. It's a bit more understood what's below the existing parking lot in the master plan location. So in terms of the development itself, or just the improvements, it's more in the range of $3 million. Plus there's the land acquisition, which the county assessor put a price of $5.3 million on that 4-acre parcel. So just overall in the end, when we're comparing one site to the other, it's really important to understand the cost of a development differences here. There's a lot of important considerations, but I think in the end, that one's one of the ones that really rose to the surface for us, was just understanding what it costs to put it in the master plan location versus at this location in the Cove. And I think that touches on most of the points. I guess one last thing is we would need to amend the master plan if the desire was to incorporate this alternate location as the final RV park location, amend the Clackamat Park master plan to incorporate that. And also, as Kendall alluded to bring that site into Clackamat Park proper as well.
A question?
Sure.
Amending that master plan, maybe is a Kendall question, but if we had to do that process, how much more would it delay implementation? Any thought? Have you guys thought about that? I mean, how much longer would it take to get to any kind of movement? Excuse me. As a result of the additional work.
It's a good question. I think part of that is the initial legwork that there's the feasibility right now that we're looking into it. And the next step is like the geotechnical. Is this even worth putting out there? Can we build on this? Because it could, there's one potential that it could just be fill. It's not structurally stable. Mm-hmm. And at that point, once we determine that a certain level of feasibility would definitely require, again, to go back to the public and present these options and get feedback from them.
Back through the whole master planning process and okay. So it's probably considerable in terms of time.
Yeah.
So are you going to put a restroom over there?
Tell me more.
I know that it costs $800,000 to build a restroom in the cemetery, and to put one over there would blow your budget quite a bit. Okay, so
in either location.
Yeah, that's right. But you were saying 1.5 to build and make that an RV park in the current master plan versus over $8 million for the new one proposed.
Yeah, and that's taking the county assessor number. I don't know if that's like dollar for dollar exactly accurate, but I think ballpark, yeah. So it's
there would have to be an appraisal done.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Erin.
If the RV park is built, do those funds come into Parks and Rec? Like, do we see those dollars coming in?
Yeah.
Okay. And so would I'm seeing a big difference, I know it's a huge cost difference, but seeing double the amount of spaces, what does that translate to for dollars coming into the Parks Department?
Well, it's kind of hard to speak to that. We know currently in our current location, we bring in around about $100,000 annually. And we know that there's some issues associated with maintenance that cut into that. That's gross. So we're not netting that amount. We're probably losing money, or at some points coming at break even, depending on kind of nature and the use. So with the new RV park, with whatever location, there would be adjustments to rates based on the new amenities. It would be all inclusive. It would be a much nicer area than we currently have. So there would need to be some market adjustments in regards to the fees associated with that. But I would ask, does it equate to $8.3 million worth
what I was
of
getting at,
revenue
right?
versus 1.5? I wouldn't say it would.
It would take a while to get to that even point with the double, even with the double. That was my question. Thank you.
Go ahead, Emily.
Yeah, I had a couple of questions. I guess the main one would be, there's a lot of water shown in some of those images, and I was wondering if you could just describe like what the floodplain looks like. I know you said it's not in the 10-year floodplain, but is it in like the 20-year, or the annual floodplain, but it is in like how much higher is that site? And how often has that site flooded in like the past, say, 100 years?
Both the site that's in the approved master plan and this alternate study are within the 100-year floodplain. That whole region, so to speak, is at that lower level. The existing RV park, the low end is right around 22 feet elevation, and both proposed locations are in the mid 30s. So it's significantly higher, but it is still within that 100-year floodplain, but the frequency at which it would be inundated is so much reduced.
Okay, thank you. I guess the other question I had was just thinking back to that Clackamas master plan. I think the presence of the RV park and the expansion of it was pretty low priority. I guess I'm just wondering what the motivation, I guess, is to move it out of the immediate floodplain, but with such a high price tag, and it's in an NROD area, why double the size in that case? And what additional costs would that incur long-term in terms of maintenance?
Yeah, I will confirm that there was some support, but it was maybe similar to pickleball. It didn't rise to the top of our amenities. It was, below halfway, I think. There were others that received much stronger support.
So, Kendall, just a quick question on the existing master plan location site for the RV park. I know there's been activity already taking place to try and continue to move forward for that implementation. How far have we gotten, or how much of a race do we have left, or can you kind of give me an idea how far down the road we are on the existing site?
Yeah, so with the master plan that we currently have, that plan was approved with the caveat that if we didn't completely move forward and change the tax lots zoning to institutional, which needs to be done in order for the RV park to be able to move to those two tax lots. So the city commission's direction was to explore this as a possible location first and present this, and then those decisions would be made. What we did do is we went through and we changed the language in institutional zoning to include recreational vehicles. So now if we do get the okay to move forward with the current master plan, and we do get the approval to move forward with changing that from mixed use to institutional, then we can move forward with the current master plan that was presented. If not, the additional issue we'll run into, if it's determined that this alternative location is going to be one that we're going to have to pursue, it's mixed use, so the zone would need to change. And the language in institutional zoning says that an RV park or recreational vehicles can only be in Clackamas Park. So the Cove is not Clackamas Park. So there's a lot of additional work that would need to be done to kind of rectify that as well.
So maybe it'd be fair to characterize as far more hurdles to get to the new site over what we've already done, at least the work that's been done on the existing site.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions? Yeah.
I just have one. Given the low priority that came back from the master plan. Is it a requirement to have an RV park, or would that take a lot of steps to just not have an RV park at either of these places?
Well, based on the feedback that we got from the community, overall feedback, they wanted to have an RV park. It may have not been the highest priority, but the feedback that we did get was we still want to have an RV park. So it'll be one of those situations where you go through the public process and you hear from the community, and the community is saying, this is what we want and this is what we want it to look like. And then we go, no, we're going to change it. That would be pretty difficult to kind of roll back. Obviously, if the city commissioner said, hey, we're going to do something different, then we would have to have those conversations. But that's kind of where we are.
And to add on to that, part of the thing with the existing location, the feedback that we got was from people that didn't use it as an RV park, just came to Clackamas Park. They felt that with the location there, it really cut off the rest of the park, and they didn't feel like they could get to the part between that and John Storm. So there was definitely support for it, but having it right in the middle of the park or in the valuable other space right by the river, we didn't feel like it warranted that support. And we showed various options in different locations, and this is definitely the one that came to the surface.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Emily.
Yeah, just to kind of piggyback off that, given that it was like a low priority, has there been discussion of a different site by Clackamas Cove or that same site, but just a smaller footprint, like something that is comparable to what is currently proposed in the master plan?
The only other site that was proposed as an alternative was a different area on Clackamas Park or the Cove, and those were the directions that we received from the city commission. And like I said previously, when you're doing a parks master plan for a specific park, you obviously have specific boundaries that you're kind of confined to, and that's why it was presented in the manner it was presented. It was a Clackamas Park master plan, so we weren't thinking, hey, we need to find a site off Clackamas Park. We're thinking, hey, it's going to be at this site based on the feedback that we received.
I guess, sorry, maybe I rephrase my question. Instead of it being 4.44 acres, like, has it been discussed just having it, say, sticking with that 2.16 acres, but in the Clackamas Cove area, just shrinking it?
We haven't had that conversation. I'm sure when we take it forward to the city commissioners, they'll provide input on what they think about the alternative location.
I have a question. Yeah, I do. So, not to be the Debbie Downer, but my question is this. Given, obviously, the rise in the homeless population that the city is having, are there any residual effects that my question is, I guess, do we have an issue with squatters in the RV park or people who are parking RVs that break down or, wanting to live there long term? Do we have some kind of an issue with that? And would that translate then with becoming more of an issue if we had more spaces?
I would say we haven't had a ton of issues with that. Obviously, there are people who utilize the RV park where there are disciplinary issues where we have to remove them from the RV park. But specifically related to homeless and abandonment of RVs, I haven't seen an uptick in that. And I think once we kind of raise the standards in regards to the caliber of the spaces and cost associated with it, I think you'll see the clientele also. They'll be reflected in the clientele we attract.
And then my other question is, do we know who provided us with this documentation?
Yes, and I will pull up that.
Documentation is that?
The letter.
Nice letter about the
long-awaited.
That's from you?
It's me, and I want to read it. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
hang on. Tim's letter? Oh,
Yeah.
Sorry.
Hang on a second before we go there. Before we do that, any other questions of our presenter or staff at this moment?
I just want to make sure, so that property net The property next to McDonald's, that's not urban renewal property, or is it? Because on your slide, it says it's already owned by the city.
Yes, it's not urban renewal property.
It's not urban renewal,
No.
but the Cove property is
The
what's
Cove,
the urban renewal
yes.
property.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
So, okay, any other questions? So, Tim, you have, excuse me, that's all right, my voice is loud, I forget that I
gonna be able
have
to
to
do
have
the
that
minutes
down
if I can't hear
there.
you.
I apologize. Maybe I'll just leave it there, how about that? So, Tim, you have some materials you would like to present.
Yes.
Any chance of doing it without reading the whole letter? Can you just characterize for us? Is that possible?
Yes. Okay. So basically, I think that this alternate location is not in city property. It's in urban renewal. Urban renewal is not city property. Urban renewal districts are districts that take blighted areas that are very difficult to go ahead and develop. They freeze those taxes at that rate. They attract a developer that will go ahead and build on that site. And then the builder will go ahead and, with a completed property, 10 years later, it's reevaluated at the new appraised value, and the city gets that much more taxes out of it, okay? The park, the RV park is something that it does not fit the urban renewal district definition at all, It's never gonna make money for the city, even in user fees or any kind of fee that you're gonna go ahead and charge at. This is a park that it will not be inhabited by Oregon City residents. This is visitors only, so Oregon City residents are not going to benefit from it very much at all. The urban renewal is something that in the city's website, everybody look at the city's website for urban renewal, they list the Cove as one of the highest potential development sites in the city. And to put a RV park there is a travesty. This city is over $20 million behind on park maintenance alone, okay? It doesn't have anything to do with streets or the senior center or city services. To go ahead and put a money-losing operation into urban renewal property is something that is a financial mess. It is. It's something that the city should not even go ahead and look twice at. So to go ahead and move the park to the first proposed area that was approved in the master plan, that this committee approved it, and the city commission approved it and said, oh, wait, we're going to go ahead and move that to the alternate site. It's another travesty to public appeal or public inclusion in any kind of decision. So to go ahead and pull a quick one with the city commissioners to go ahead and move an RV park that was dedicated over in a park area without any rezoning. Well, we did, the rezoning was just a little bit. This is going to be a big rezoner, and going into urban renewal districts is not a good idea. So I think that the city paid over $85,000 for Lango's work. It's really great. We loved the first master plan. We approved it. But this one, I have to go ahead and urge our Park and Recs Advisory Committee to vote no on this, because it is not a wise use of money. The city could go ahead and use tax increment financing to go ahead and support everybody's salary that's not on this committee right here. So it's something that I know you guys want raises and more people working in your department. This will not make it happen. So I urge a no vote.
Okay. Thank you. We have two public comment letters. Any further questions from our presenter? Excuse me, I apologize.
No. Oh, for me, sorry.
Thank you for concise presentation. Appreciate it. So we have two public commenters this evening. Brian, I get you up here now on the right time. How about that?
Brian Shaw, Oregon City. I don't know how to follow that. You know, thank you, Tim. Very well covered. And I was going to say, I just wanted to kind of qualify myself a little bit because I spent 10 years on Park and Rec in this city, and our claim to fame was the park off of Leland up there. I couldn't remember the name of that. But that was school district property, and we brought it into the city and developed that park. So I kind of have my name on that a little bit. So anyway, the sad part about this whole thing is that this master plan was that close to being complete. Thanks to staff over here, but at the 11th hour, a couple of commissioners decided, one specifically, and I don't mention names, but thought, well, this isn't right. Now, they've had 2 years to look at this master plan and see that RV park and make whatever they wanted to do. But they waited till the 11th hour to make some kind of a comment on that. So that's why it's going to take another year probably for this master plan to get complete. I'm sorry, Kendall, but that's the way it is. So Mr. Wuest was correct. This is the site they're talking about is an urban renewal site. I was part of the Urban Renewal Commission years ago, and there was a developer at the time that had plans for that existing site. So I can't tell you that that was not able to be developed because according to him, he spent enough money to say that could be developed, but he was going to develop that along with everything around that cove. So that is a developable piece of property for urban renewal. And if you went to any city in the state and told them you were going to put an RV park in an urban renewal district, you would be laughed at. So this city needs as many revenue streams as we can get. You hear it now from all of the baseball players and the football players having to pay fees and everything. That's because we don't have the money to do the programs and not charge everybody all these fees. We don't have that revenue stream. We can get it through urban renewal. We can get it through these $300 million shopping centers, 2 of which we've seen the taillights of. That's another revenue stream for this city. But until that time, we're going to have user fees, and it's just not very comfortable for you guys especially, or for Kendall, or for Denise back here. These guys are the ones that have to get these phone calls. So, but anyway, I think Tim spelled it out for you. And the existing site next to McDonald's, this is what the public has said is okay. This is what you guys said was okay. If you want to go against the public's desire, as those couple commissioners have done, that's up to you. But I just don't see it. So I'm having been on a renewal commission. There's a real value down there, and you see the properties that are being developed in this city right now. They're on the edge of cliffs and everything else. And so the desirable properties in this city are disappearing. That cove property is a desirable property as soon as they get the LJ Bloom squared away on it. So anyway, that's all I got to say.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Questions, Mr. Shaw? Any questions? Look, I'm going to look at the computer this time in case somebody raises their hand.
Okay.
I don't see any. All right. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks.
Thank you, Brian. Our next comment from William Gifford. Welcome.
Sure, Williams and committee members, my name is William Gifford. I live in Oregon City. I had 2 questions and a comment. But I think that Commissioner Lanehart asked the first one for me, and that was regarding to need. And I think that that's been rebutted by Kendall saying that whether or not you think that an RV site is needed, apparently there was enough comments, even though it's a low priority, to say that the public wants one. So I don't know that we need one, but if we have to have one, I would say have a nice one, get it up out of the floodplain, and go along with the original plan. The other question that I would make is, though, who the users are, because I don't know that that is an Oregon City amenity per se. Yeah, we've had some relatives that camp down there, for a couple nights, but for the most part, that is not serving the citizens of Oregon City. It's serving people that are just looking for a cheap place to stay. I mean, I don't know that that's folded into the tourism plan or not. And lastly, I would like to reiterate the comment about TIF, tax increments financing. That property has been designated to increase taxes for our city. And I think we all have to admit that the RV park is not going to increase the value of that property at all. And I think where it is now is, in the current master plan, I say go for it. To get it done. The fact that in this whole community, and I think I have a lot of contacts, I've only heard 2 people ever say, yeah, that's a swell idea. Put it up there by the cove. I don't know if there's a groundswell of support for that idea.
Thank you. Any questions, Mr. Gifford? Okay. So we've, any further questions of staff or our presenter?
Do we make a motion?
I'm sorry, I just had one quick question.
Yeah.
What is I guess this is for staff, for anyone who knows, does Westland and Lake Oswego and Canby, does anyone have an RV park?
No. We're special.
Okay. that feels relevant.
Okay.
Yeah.
There we go.
If it was a money-making venture, some entrepreneur would put one in. But it's not a money-making venture.
I mean, is it possible just to
And
make...
it's serving people who are not long-term residents of Oregon City primarily.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, is it possible for a motion to just not have an RV park at all moving forward? Is that something we can do following the review of these proposals? If they're going to be reviewing the position anyways, it feels like this is going to take...
We could make a recommendation to
I think
consider.
Before we go down that road, let me just make one comment. Again, you heard from both the presenters here and those of us who we all participated quite a bit in the planning for the current, and the decision had been made in that current master plan to do that. We delay things now we'd be even in a more of a quandary, I think, to get to the end of the racetrack if we start. This is my personal opinion, but it's already been a decision that was made. There's been some expression of concern about the city council, coming out of nowhere and kind of changing it again. We'd be doing the same thing, in my opinion, that kind of goes on there. I think our job, again, we make recommendations. We don't do anything other than that. At this point, I think our recommendation, my personal belief is it's a yay or a nay, and then if we want to talk about something else in the plan, we probably bring it up that way. I think that would be a better way to handle it. And any difference of opinion there?
Yeah.
Okay.
The public process has spoken.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the master plan that was presented, that's the one that I supported at the time and I still support.
So, if we have a motion, anybody? If we have a motion, I'd entertain a motion at this time?
I will make a motion to not support the alternate RV park site and put our support behind the original master plan site for the RV park.
We have a second?
Second.
Okay. Before we vote, any comments on the motion? I'll just make one, Joyce, you hit it on the head the way I feel. We put a lot of time and effort into the development of the current and existing master plan. For me personally, it's important. There were enough people. I spent quite a bit of time in different meetings. There were enough people wanted a RV park. I have different feelings about that personally myself, but there were quite a few people wanted an RV park. But it, to me, was more important to get it first off up out of the floodplain, because I went down several different times and watched city staff have to go dig stuff out of the water and do all of that work. And it's at least twice a year, if not more. That's ridiculous for someplace you're not making much money on in the first place. That's just not smart. So if we're going to have, if we want the master plan to reflect the fact we're going to have an RV park, moving it across the street was where we decided to do that. And that opens up a whole bunch of other opportunities down in the main park itself that we haven't been talking about here this evening. But those were the kinds of discussions that took place. So I'm going to support the motion, but I still do want to move. I want to move forward and not do it after I'm probably gone, because I'm afraid that a lot of things in this master plan are going much slower than I thought they ever would. And I won't bring up even my issues there, but the bottom line is we need to get moving forward, and any delay here at this point would just delay the process of getting it done. So I'm going to support the motion. Any other thoughts? Okay, correct.
So to be clear, supporting the motion is supporting not relocating to the Cove. It is to support the approved master plan location. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's as I understand it. Yes.
Great, thank you. Joey Knopf,
Yes.
Joyce Gifford,
Yes.
Tim Wuest,
Yes.
Steve Williams,
Yes.
Tim Lanehart,
No.
David Bone,
Yes.
Emily Lisborg,
Yes.
and Aaron McClellan.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Okay. So, thank you. Thank you to everyone. It's kind of exciting. We had some things we were doing here that's, hey, we haven't been doing many of these kind of things before. It's kind of fun. Anyway, I'll move us on. The next item we have is a general business item, upcoming schedule of PRAC agenda items.
That's me. So we had some conversations about putting a calendar together over the next several months to provide an idea of what's upcoming so we could plan out some of these meetings. And so myself and Corey and the staff have put together a preliminary list to kind of showcase what our proposed plan is for the next several months. So we wanted to provide this to all of you to review, with the understanding that some of these things we're trying to project out, not knowing if they're going to kind of land where they're going to land. Some things we're more certain of. We also have a list of probably 10 to 12 items that we know will need to come, but we haven't put them on there just yet. But we thought that this would be a good starting point. And as you can see, March is quite full. So, but we felt like this would be a good opportunity to have some discussion around this plan moving forward.
Go ahead, Aaron.
We're back to just seeing files. again,
I
sorry.
wondered. Okay, let's see. Tell me if you can see anything at any point.
You have another packet,
Yep, it's in. We got it.
Great.
the agenda.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
No, these are mine.
I'm sorry, we're looking for another packet here real
That's fine.
quick.
Don't
Found
worry.
it?
I can
Okay.
look at yours.
All right.
Find it?
Yep. So,
Yeah, I see it right here.
All right.
So, questions, thoughts regarding this approach? This is something that we started discussing over a year ago, a way to kind of try and begin to plan out some things. I think I appreciate, Kendall, what I heard you say was there's flexibility though built into this, recognizing that there isn't, there may be some things we got to move around a little bit, or things may just come up.
Yeah.
So, any thoughts, ideas, acceptable way to approach it?
What are the things in blue?
Those are extra flexible. You'll see at the bottom as well, there are some topics that we just haven't identified a good place that they fit quite yet. And knowing that things coming up soon are filling up fast, the staff will work together to plug things in where they make the most sense.
Emily.
Yeah, I had a quick question about, I know B-City is something that I've mentioned a couple of times. I did reach out to the Xerxes Society for Invertebrate Conservation. I'm waiting to hear back from them. But the CIC and the NRC have heard presentations from them about what B-City, what resources are available. And I think that maybe that should be on this list as well. And I'm not seeing, I see pollinator garden site visit, but B-City is something a little bit different.
Sure.
Okay. Good idea.
And I had inquired, I think I mentioned last meeting that I would reach out to them for a possible presentation, in the next month or so. And I did propose the, I think it was it March 28th? I don't know, it looks like that's fairly busy, but it would be helpful if I could have a date so I could see if someone's available, because sometimes they, especially for evening times, they tend to be a little bit busier.
Thank you, Emily. I do recall you mentioning that a couple different times, actually.
Yeah, I do as well. We can potentially look at April if that would work and make sense. And then, I can be back in touch with you or Kendall or Tom on that one, Emily.
Okay, thank you.
Any other thoughts about moving forward with this kind of approach and list? Okay.
All right.
So I think that tells me that we'll move forward with possibly the addition that we just talked about with the Bee City and things like that.
All right.
Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, we're on to staff reports.
So I'll kick things off. Just some updates about our Parks Master Plan. We are planning to bring back our Parks Master Plan at the March meeting. It'll be our final draft. And the plan is hopefully April 8th, doing our public engagement meeting, April 9th, then presenting that information to City Commission. And then we're going to schedule out some additional dates to present to CIC and the Youth Advisory Council as well. So that's what our current plan is for the Parks Master Plan, but we plan to bring that back. And we also plan to bring back our capital improvement plan, which will list out all of the projects that we're looking forward to working on, and that will be tied to our SDCs. So that CIP plan will then be sent to our system development charges consultant to work on those revisions, and that's something else that we will also be bringing back. So the other announcement I have is March 12th is when we're scheduled to take the Clackamas Park Master Plan back to the city commissioners to talk about the alternative location for the RV park. Obviously, we'll make sure that you're aware of the date, time. We'll get that on your schedules. If you would like to participate, we welcome that. But outside of that, that's all I have. Any questions for me?
Any questions?
That was March 12th at the...
March 12th.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Denise?
So in lieu of repeating everything that's in your monthly
provide you some highlights. We have the ODOT right-of-way in the West Good Neighbor area project, which is the hillside that we were looking to plant the pollinator garden. That property was depicted to us as ODOT property. We approached ODOT to put that on the 6F process to exchange property with their ODOT project down by John Storm and Sportcraft. That was denied, and then Tom actually worked through with ODOT for surplus property. Going through surplus property, they realized that ODOT doesn't actually own the entirety of that hillside. They own a small strip. They pointed us in the direction of Clackamas County, who owns it. So we are in conversation, or trying to get in conversation with the right person at Clackamas County Transportation in order to talk to them about a maintenance agreement on their piece of property. So as soon as we get that confirmation back from them, whether we have the right person or not, and who we need to talk to, and gaining that maintenance agreement, we're looking forward to moving forward. In the meantime, our subcontractor for the plantings is trying to acquire the planting material in their order. We had 2 items that need to be substituted out for visibility factors once they're fully grown, which they would be about 6 feet tall. We still want that visibility from the roadside looking down into our parking lot. So they're looking for some substitutions that would be viable to us and viable to what our intent is. And so we're still waiting to hear back what substitution that would be. We'll run it back through Parks and make sure that Parks and our architect make sure that that's a viable option long-term. And then other than that, we are still working through our arborist reports that are still not quite up to par for us to process our tree permits. So we're looking at other options to make sure that we can get the viable information we need to get through our tree permit process.
Thank you. Questions? Okay.
I'm assuming I'm next. Okay. So at the swimming pool this past week, we were able to open up the ability for anyone who has the membership coverage for active, renew, and one pass to be able to have access to memberships and the ability to come and visit the swimming pool. This is really exciting because we've had Silver Sneakers and Silver and Fit implemented at our sites over this past year. But some of those members got, I think recently, some of those insurances moved to the one pass structure. And so we were able to get that added to our site so that people can continue using our facilities for that, as well as open the opportunity for other people in the community to be able to do that. So I feel like we're at a point now where most people who have any type of insurance coverage that helps cover the access to like gyms or, recreation opportunities like that, we're able to provide that at the swimming pool as well as the Pioneer Center. Our Glow Swim series is wrapping up in March because the sun is staying out later, so it's hard to turn the lights off with the big window wall on the pool deck. Those are all sold out for the season with long wait lists, so we've had a lot of positive feedback with that. Our spring break camps are coming up next month, and those are open for registration at this point. We still have 20 spots. Those are for ages 5 to 12, and we're going to be offering it Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. We're going to be opening up registration soon for our pool Easter egg hunts. That'll be at the end of the month, as well as our spring swimming lessons and any other spring programs that'll open up on March 6th at noon. The Ermitinger House, we have lantern tours that are taking place on Saturday, and we still have a few spots left for that. And then we have a murder mystery event taking place at the site on March 9th and 10th, and still have spots open for that event. And we have been able to schedule 173 students to come and take field trips at the Ermitinger House so far this year. And that list will continue to grow, especially the closer we get to spring, because that's typically when we see a lot of schools come and take field trips at that site. Our department will be present at the Oregon City School District's Family Focus Forum, which will be this Saturday. So we'll be there primarily to make sure that we're communicating the availability for scholarship assistance for our camps and our swim lesson scholarships, as well as talk about the programs and resources available within our department for families. And then we are currently hiring for our seasonal recreation staff, which is primarily our summer camp counselors and lead counselors and various recreation event staff. And so that's open right now and will close on March 6th unless we decide to open it more due to however many people apply for that position. And then last, our movies and the park, we opened that up for voting for the public after last month's meeting. And so far we have 186 people who have voted for that. It will be open until April 5th for people to vote. And right now the top movie is Super Mario Bros. So, and then the other four are pretty neck and neck. So it's hard to know who will win at this point.
My son's very excited.
Thank you, Melissa. Any questions of Melissa?
So that One Pass program is really cool. I'm with Providence. Providence is with that.
Mm-hmm.
And does that allow free access to the pool then?
Yeah, if you select the Oregon City Swimming Pool as the site that you want to sign up with, it does.
You know, the beauty of One Pass is that you could sign up for as many clubs as you want. So it's a pretty cool deal.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Melissa, just one question in your report there. You mentioned, and this is an important thing from my perspective, swimming lessons. You mentioned that the lists were classes were full and growing wait lists. About how many people have we got on wait lists waiting for swimming lessons? Do you have an idea? Just a rough guess?
There is always more people on the wait list than we have in our classes. I'll tell you that.
Okay.
I think every time I do look at it from like a quarterly standpoint, we, have maybe 30% of the people registered versus X% of people that would like to be in the classes. So a lot of our swim lesson levels are capped at 6 students, but there's usually anywhere between 18 and 70, 90 people on the wait list trying to get into that class. So that's just an ongoing.
Certainly, that certainly shows that there is a substantial need, which I think is something that we certainly need to look at. Okay.
All right, Jesse?
Yep. So things are going well at the Pioneer Center. We have a posting for our nutrition assistant job that just closed on the 20th. We have a few, small pool anyways, of qualified candidates that we hope to be interviewing next week for that position. When we get that filled, we would be considered fully staffed. We are talking about proposals for a fitness instructor. Much like the pool, we also are now partnering with Silver Sneakers, Silver and Fit, Renew Active, those, Medicare options for our group fitness, our fitness facility that we have, our little gym, if you've ever seen that at the Pioneer Center. But we are looking to expand that so that there would be some free programming for those that would qualify through that program. So that's where that fitness instructor would come in. We would be looking to potentially add a staffed position for that. Our spring programming looks really great. We have these great relationships with Clackamas Community Education, and those programs are going, splendidly well, I would say, where we are actually considering some space issues. We are definitely not where Melissa is with the pool, but we are looking at capacity for a few of them. We have classes down in our basement, which is a much smaller option. Our stretch and tone takes place down there. You need a lot of room for those types of activities. And so that's kind of that conflict that we are looking at for the future. If those programs grow, how do we handle that, with wait list capacities, that sort of thing. The other area area of growth for our programming is really our internal programming. So that the staff puts on, that we do day to day. Very excited with our new hire of our rental and events coordinator. We've been able to kind of dream and kind of plan ahead for the future and what that looks like. So as we're going into March, I have just a small list of things, but we're doing a lot of just fun activities and programs. So starting off March 6th, we are celebrating National Oreo Day, because who wouldn't want to do that? We are celebrating International Women's Day with a lunch and learn on March 8th. We have March 8th, a new program of bunco starting. That's been a strong request since I've arrived. We're going to be doing a Luck of the Irish scavenger hunt the week of March 11th. In addition, we have the National Canine Veterans Day presentation from a local canine officer, which is very exciting. And of course, the St. Patrick's Day party. We have some musical performances happening now during our lunch hour, and we've got some wonderful educational programs that we're doing. So one is on palliative care that's coming up March 20th. And because the Easter holiday falls early this month, we will also be doing some internal programming around that holiday. So very excited for what's coming. Again, our schedule is getting busier and busier as we are growing these programs. And it really is one of our number one requests of more type of activity like that. So we're trying to meet that need with the staff that we have and the capacity that we have. March is also, of course, the national campaign for March for Meals, or the hashtag Save Lunch program. So we will be partnering with multiple businesses. We have change bins going out, 24 of them total, where we are asking for people to collect donations for us. All of those, of course, have a QR code, because we know not everybody has cash or change these days as well. In addition, we are sending out some leprechauns. It's kind of a fun new thing. If you've ever heard of fundraising that takes place where you either, call to have something removed, so to speak, like flamingos are a popular fundraiser out there. It's just kind of a play on that. So we're looking forward to the businesses partnering with us. We have some businesses that are going to be doing a small percentage of sales for the day. Restaurants that will do like 10% of sales the evening, for people who go and have dinner that day. All of that, again, going back to our programming. I'll talk more and more in March about, at our PRAC meeting, at the need for those fundraisers. We are seeing significant funding cuts come from the county level in future years. They're projecting major cuts in nutrition specifically. So we know the need is higher and higher as baby boomers are still aging into our program demographic. So terrible timing for that to happen, of course, as the needs are increasing. But again, I think we can do well with serving our community with being proactive with fundraising and grant writing. In addition to that, we're just actually gearing up for our spring closure. We actually take the spring break week, so the last full week of March, and we are closed that week. We do a lot of deep cleaning, staff training, things like that. Been working directly with Parks and Facilities on the things that we need to tackle during that time, and grateful for this team to my left. So that's what I've got. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay.
All right, I'll try and stick to things that I'm going to be working on or have not finished yet, so don't repeat anything that's in there. City Hall, we're looking at improving some different security systems here, and that's pretty much focusing on bill paying, the interaction between customers and the staff that are here. I've been taking some people to take a look at Ermitinger for exterior painting. Pioneer, we are working on getting the cameras, access controls, and getting numbers for a new door slider in the multipurpose room. But last time, the lead on that was a lot longer than we thought, so I'm preparing that for June. So that's a long ways off, but that's how long it takes to get a large door. At the pool, met with Melissa to discuss some things we might have to change either with our service or with some upgrades to locking some spaces off based on some Oregon Health reviews that we've gotten and how we need to proceed there. Hopefully, you guys can take a look at the library that we've changed up the reception desk to make it more airy and spacious. And so hopefully everyone gets a chance to get in there and see that space and how that's changed quite a bit over the past couple months. There's been an issue there. It's not a reoccurring issue all the time. It's every couple months. Staff informs me that it's the ghost of John McLaughlin. I don't believe that, and so I'm looking into the lighting controls instead. I don't want to chalk that up to someone else's problem. And then finally, had a new position for my team posted last week, and so I'm looking forward to getting somebody else on staff and be able to provide even more service.
Thank you, Kyle. Questions? All right.
Right, I'll touch on a couple highlights as well. Just wanted to mention that I've now gone through my first high water event at Clackamat Park. We were closed Friday, January 23rd through Wednesday, January 31st for high water. The river crested at 23 feet. It was at one point it was predicted to go over 25, which would have escalated our response, but we were pretty lucky on this one. No electrical infrastructure was damaged. There was a water line on one of the RV sites that was a little bit damaged. We had to repair that, but we had it fixed within a single day. Got all of our park hosts out of the way, moved to different sites. One actually remained on site on the high ground to help control access to the park. And we were able to use that closure period to work on some vegetation removal throughout the park that we can't normally do when folks are there. So we actually took advantage of the situation a little bit. A couple of the maintenance projects that we've been working on throughout the system. We've been putting down some chips in some of the dog parks. So if you've been out at Toronis Woods, there's chips that are down in the kind of the transition area that help. That's the area where like all the dogs and all the people are going to go through, so they get hit really hard. So we put down some chips to help smooth those out for the rainy season, clean up some of that mud. There's also a drainage area at Wesley Lynn Dog Park that tends to collect a lot of water. Kind of filled that in with some chips as well, just to kind of soak that up. We're looking at a longer term solution for that for the summer, planning out a project there. One of the main things that I've really been trying to work on with staff is just kind of the general planning for future projects. And one of those areas we've been looking at is kind of sports field management. How do we manage our turf fields? How do we manage our infields and all these different areas? That also includes our like ornamental bark beds, all kind of these different areas throughout our system where we're doing a lot of work. And our staff has been developing maps where we can actually map out kind of the square footage of these sites, looking at some more kind of proactive management, using more fertilizer up front that's kind of developing grass health where we don't have to use pesticide so much. Actually, just before this meeting, I met with the Baseball Association to kind of talk through that plan, get some buy-in on kind of some cooperative measures that we can take for future sports field management. One of the really surprising things, or I guess not surprising, one of the things that I have really focused on from this kind of mapping exercise, we mapped out all of the different bark beds in all of our different parks. And then assigned them tiers. And so a tier 1, ornamental, like decorative bark bed, that team is managing 116,000 square feet of bark beds. So we're coming up with a plan that's going to get them, it sounds like they were doing a lot of that work by hand in the past. We're trying to get a plan in place where we can make that a little more efficient and use our time wisely. So that's a lot of what we've been doing in kind of this off season is our general maintenance and then planning for the busy season of summer that is right around the corner. And it was actually really fun to go out to Wesley Lynn just before this on a bright sunny day and see everybody using the park. That was really cool. Normally I get to see it in the morning when nobody's there.
Thank you. Questions? I had one question, and I think I know what you meant, but there was a reference here to ring diving on trees in the old Kanema Park. I'm assuming that's cutting the roots of the ivy off from the top?
Correct. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, so there was
There's a picture I think I saw in there.
yeah, there are some pictures in there that show kind of what we did. There were, I think it's about 12 trees total that were just completely covered in ivy, and we went in and just removed that bottom layer, and what'll happen over time is now that there's no root structure, that ivy will fall off. And it'll save the health of the tree.
Obviously, I'm not a plant person, but I had always been told the ivy will just keep growing by getting its nutrients from the tree it's on.
Sometimes it will, and it's definitely a situation that we'll keep monitoring, but it should work.
Okay, should work. Well then. Hey, you gotta do something.
You gotta do something,
Gotta
right?
do something, okay. Okay, I think that's all of our staff reports, okay? Member reports? Anything the members have to report on? They've been.
I want to say thank you, Melissa, because I attended the Lunar New Year event that was held at the Pioneer Center. I'm not sure who really sponsored that or how I even found out. I think I found out about it on a Facebook feed, but that was so much fun with the lion dancers and the dragon dance, and I just really love my community. And I know that was part, I don't know how much you had to do, Melissa, there, but you were one of the people speaking as I came in the door.
Yeah, thank you. It's actually been funded by Art Commission grant dollars that Soul Flags Art Community Center was the grant recipient for. So it's been them as well as community members and our department and the school district and the library all coming
And I
together.
saw Commissioner Adam Morrow there too.
Yeah.
And appreciate his involvement in those events. So thank you very much for that. I just had kind of one question is that, I heard Tim mention it, this $20 million in arrears. And, what is, as a committee, our job is to help you guys, triage these things. And without knowing where the problem is or what's going on. So if we could, have some information, exactly how much money are we in arrears? Is it 5 million, 10 million?
It's 23. It's 23 million. It's 11.
Okay,
It's 11 million for facilities and 11 million for parks. And that deferred maintenance assessment report was done in 2021. So it's probably more than that.
Okay, if there's something I could see that outlines where specifically those problems.
There's a report for they're all individual reports, and I will be happy to share those with you. And how this group can provide us support is when we're bringing this master plan back, part of the conversation we're having around is what are our needs moving forward? And we know it's funding. So we're going to have some conversations around the types of alternative funding that could help fill in some of those gaps. So getting your support, your input will be extremely important, but also helping us tell that story to the community. And when we get to the city commissioners as well, supporting us in getting the funding that we need so we can get some direction on trying to fill those gaps when it comes to funding, because we're heavily supported by the general fund. So we're trying to make ourselves more sustainable with some of the practices like cost recovery policy and looking at our fee structure and how we're set up, our structures and going out for grants, how we utilize volunteers so we can try to fill in those gaps to some degree, but we don't have enough funding to tackle some of these other issues that are unfunded items. Our park infrastructure is extremely old, and there's some need for renovation and increasing ADA accessibility. And obviously, we're still moving forward to try to get grants to fill in some of those gaps as well. But we're going to need some support, whether it be a utility fee, bond, levy, combination of those. Those are going to be some things that we're going to be talking about in March. So that's where we need you to come alongside us as a group and provide support, direction, and be able to help us tell that story to the community.
Okay, so tell us the story so we can do that, because You know, I look at us as we're the boots on the ground and the roots, you know, the roots that go out, and we all have our contact groups, and we're all so different. And so, yeah, help us tell the story. Don't know if there's anything else. Still get out there and love my parks.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I would like to just add on to what was said right there, that I think, excuse me, telling the story feels so important that we do want to support it. And I'm wondering, not just in our own areas, but how are we making that broader? Like, as we were talking and hearing about that really great event that happened with the Lunar New Year, I went onto the website and the latest update is from 2016. And so I'm wondering, how can we support the more broad telling of that story? Like, could we create content for you? Could we do things to tell, like, if you talked about Joyce, you attended that, would Joyce be able to write about her experience there and then submit it to possibly be shared more publicly? But I'm seeing that we have some channels to talk about the great stuff and get people excited about the parks and get people excited about the possibility of having more taxes that support the parks, but I don't see us using those channels. So I'm wondering, how can we help with that aspect too?
Yeah, and when it comes to marketing, that's something that we're really focusing on, tied into the conversation around the Parks Master Plan. We're actually going to be working on developing a annual marketing plan associated with our programs, our services, and helping us be more effective at telling the story of what we're doing. That feedback's great. Obviously, Melissa's done some great work in collaboration with Soul Flags and the library and the school. And we work closely with our communications engagement manager to try to get that information out. Many of the people here in the room work on trying to get it out to the different channels. But if you do identify areas where we're not reaching or people aren't hearing about it, we're open to that feedback to try to make sure that we're hitting those channels as well. We have a new website, so we want to optimize the use of that as well. So we're open to your suggestions, and we look forward to continuing to collaborate with you on this marketing plan coming forward so we can be more effective at telling that story.
Anyone else? Anything to add? Just one last comment. I took a moment this afternoon when the sun came out. I live across from Rivercrest Park, and there were people all over Rivercrest, so I got in my car and I drove around just to look at a few of the other parks. And if you don't think the people of Oregon City are using our parks, when the sun came out this afternoon, there were people everywhere, lots of little people and all kinds of folks all over the city of Oregon City utilizing our parks. It was impressive how many people got out there when the first ray of sunshine popped up. So, you know, what all of you do and what we all do is pretty damn important, looked to me like, as I drove around town today, making those facilities and areas available for our citizens, because there were lots of them out there. I don't think anybody works anymore. That's what
I was at Rivercrest for an hour and a half before this meeting, so you might have seen me there chasing around.
So anyway.
I was at the promenade and I saw lots of selfies being taken over the
Okay,
to the river.
so
it looks like Emily has her hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, I can't see. There's no.
That's all right. I got it.
Okay.
Yeah, just a quick thank you to Tom. I'm glad to hear that turf management is something that is on the radar for parks. I think there's a lot of opportunity there for more sustainable management, and especially in light of the many millions of dollars deficit that the parks have accrued. So thank you for taking that seriously and looking into that more.
Okay. And for those of you on the Zoom, I apologize for not being able to call on you more frequently. I start looking around. I'm not looking right at the screen, so I don't see your hand up. I will do better in the future. Future agenda items, we looked at some of those already, frankly. So our next scheduled meeting is March 28th. And Any other comments, thoughts before I gavel us out? Okay, well, thank you to everybody. Good meeting. That was, we had some good conversations and some good opportunity to participate. That was good. Thank you. We're adjourned.